One, two, 1, 2.
Good evening, everyone. We are 4 minutes late. I apologize for that. We're getting everything set up on a recording and our Zoom. And hopefully everybody on Zoom can hear us tonight. I want to welcome everybody to the May meeting of the El Dorado Hills Area Planning Advisory Committee. I'm the chair, John Davey. We have Vice Chair John Raslier, Secretary Bill Jamaica. Everyone else is traveling, so you're stuck with us tonight. The first thing we do with our meetings is we call the meeting to order, which we're doing. Are there any changes to the agenda from officers? No. Okay, let me throw this thing up on the screen so we know what we're talking about. Okay. There, that's going to get really bright. Sorry. Okay, we are underway. Call the meeting to order. There's our officers, our meeting agenda, no changes from the officers. The first thing we do at all our meetings is we have an opportunity for public comment on matters that aren't on our agenda tonight. So if there's something you want to talk about that's on the agenda, we ask you to hold on till we get to that item later in the meeting. There are microphones in the room. There's one over there. The lights just need to be green on them, and there's one up here that everybody has, and there's some out on the tables too, and they're the handheld ones Bill's demonstrating, like a good spokesmodel. You push the button when it turns green, you put it, you just don't have to do anything else, and you can talk and people will hear you. So, are there any public comments here in the room tonight on matters that aren't on the agenda? Oh, Kelly, do you want to grab a microphone someplace? There's one by you, or you want to? There's one up here if you want to turn that, or wherever you want to be. We want you to be comfortable, and as long as it's green, you can go.
Hi everybody, I'm Kelly
Yeah.
Everybody, I'm Kelly Nalavaya from El Dorado Hills. I just want to do a little public service announcement and remind everybody it is a primary season. Please research your candidates. We have people running in different races locally, state, federally. And last night I had the opportunity to listen to one of the gubernatorial candidates along with a fine one of our candidates that we don't get to vote for, unfortunately, for District 4. Talk about local control and the state's infiltration into our decisions, whether it's APAC or the Board of Supervisors of the Planning Commission, and how important it is for us to take back that local control. And this individual did agree solely, if you want to try, I'm not trying to make this partisan, so I'm not going to use names, do the math. But it is really important to get your ballots in or drop them to the elections department because it really does matter locally. So thanks for that.
Great. Thank you, Kelly. Are there any other comments in the room? Okay. Moving on. Are there any comments online? I don't have. Okay. So here we go. Moving ahead. We'd like to remind everybody when we start our meetings how you can become a voting member of APAC is that you work on a project review or a subcommittee, and then with your kind assistance helping us review a project and participating, you qualify to be a voting member, and then you could vote for other people to be up here. And then you also get to vote on our project findings to, if we want to support them or modify them. So we encourage anybody who wants to do so. Our email addresses are on the agenda. Our info@edhapac.org is on our website and on the agenda. If you come up to me after we're done tonight, I'm not going to remember. So, yeah, we always look forward to having people help out if you have a concern. And it could be a little thing, it could be a big thing. So, moving along. So, we open the meetings, have updates from our supervisors, El Dorado Hills supervisors for District 1, District 2. You are in luck tonight because none of the supervisors are here. But District 1 Supervisor Greg Ferrero is traveling for a wedding. His assistant is here, Cindy Mott, who's always at APAC meetings. So Cindy, I don't know if that's green. You might have to push the button on that thing. Okay.
Hi, everybody. Supervisor Ferrero gave me a few notes. So I will read them. He's having fun with it. I know. First, there was a new traffic enhancements finally at Saratoga and Finders Way, which is exciting. DOT has installed 2 flashing LED intersection warning signs on Saratoga. Replaced 400 feet on each side of Finders. The lights are radar activated. Oh, and currently set up to trigger when it hits 50 miles per hour. The setting can be adjusted as needed, and they've also added a watch for stop traffic sign for eastbound drivers at the vertical crest. And over the next several weeks, DOT will be collecting data on the number of activations and fine-tune the speed activations to be as effective as possible. So that's really good data. Supervisor Ferrero and Bjorkamp, along with our El Dorado Hills Deputy Director of Health and Human Services and the Chief Communications Officer, they went and they lobbied at the Capitol to try to get the state to pay for the mandates they're requiring of all California counties. They met with Assembly Members Patterson and Hadwick and Senator Alvarado Gil to ask specifically for funding for Medi-Cal and CalFresh programs. Since HR 1 was passed, there currently is no funding for these programs from the state. And without the required funding, counties are going to have to absorb millions of dollars to pay for the state mandated programs. It's another unfunded mandate that the state is required. Next, Serrano Associates has requested a road closure for Silva Valley Parkway from Entrada to Tom and Clarksville Road from June 8th until August 7th. The roads will be closed to construct an off-site sewer line connecting the Serrano Village A4 site to an existing service point west of Clarksville Road. The work being done is not for Costco, even though it's in the same Costco area. It's not for Costco. Keep getting the calls. El Dorado County is actively moving forward with plans to establish entertainment zones in its unincorporated areas. On May 12th, the Board of Supervisors gave a conceptual approval to amend Title V of the County Code to allow these designated spaces. The decision opens the door for local commercial centers to host special events where adults aged 21 and older can legally walk around and consume open containers of alcohol within specific, well-regulated boundaries. Representatives from the El Dorado Hills Town Center, backed by the El Dorado Hills Chamber, originally requested the ordinance, and Supervisor Ferrero brought it forward to the board. They aim to boost foot traffic, increase local restaurant spending, make community gathering spots more vibrant. The county staff is currently drafting the final ordinance language by evaluating frameworks already launched by nearby municipalities like Sacramento and Auburn. And once the final ordinance is formally voted on and adds to the county code, individual venues and businesses associations will be able to officially submit their zone boundaries and safety plans for formal final county approval. And finally, El Dorado Hills Costco update, because the draft EIR official comment period has been closed since March 23rd. El Dorado County Planning Division is currently in the multi-month process of reviewing all community feedback, drafting formal legal responses to each comment, and finalizing the report. The final EIR is expected to be released in mid to late 2026, and the county must publish the final EIR, which includes all public comments and official responses at least 10 days before any public hearings take place. Once finalized, the project will head to the Planning Commission public hearing, where commissioners will vote on whether or not to certify the EIR and approve the project entitlements. The final EIR must be officially certified by the County Board of Supervisors before any construction can legally begin.
There will be plenty of time for public comment through the entire process.
Okay, and I always say this, if you have any questions, remember, Cindy's not elected, but she does serve us. So are there any questions? Jan, do you have a microphone?
Cindy, one question. You mentioned the closing of Silver Valley Parkway starting in June 8th.
When to do it after school.
So that means the entire Silver Valley
Well,
Parkway?
they were gonna have, I think it's one, they're gonna do one-way south. Okay, just south.
Parksville will be a detour, so you'll have through movement through that whole area. Just use Parksville as opposed to South Hudson.
It'll be a little slow.
Oh.
For how long?
Uh,
From
You guys will get it.
eight
You'll get
They're only allowed to do it when school's out,
yeah.
so they're hoping that they'll get done a couple weeks early, but they have up until school week back.
Possibly the whole summer.
Just by the middle school, it's 2 months, it's a 2 month period. No, northbound Silver Valley and then southbound folks will take Parksville Crossing down to the southerly intersection.
So you can see what it's gonna be like across.
There, you got it?
Cindy, could you tell, right here, tell Greg and the transportation group, thank you for the signs. I have to say, for 5 years, I've been like worried about crashes at that intersection. Finally, there's blinking signs. By the way, I didn't know they were radar because they're always blinking when I go by them. Wasn't me. It wasn't me. Yeah, really. So it's made a huge improvement already, I think, because we're getting fewer cars passing us on the right in the bike lane. So it's safer for the bikes. And I always worry about losing that right-hand mirror when they do silly things like that. So thanks for the upgrade. I appreciate it.
Okay. Good. Any other questions? Nobody, any questions online? You can raise your hand on Zoom. That's perfect. You can take the rest of the night off. And so Supervisor Turnbow, District 2 is not here tonight, but Bob Williams is here tonight. And we should also, he's our District 2 Planning Commissioner. District 1 Planning Commissioner Dave Spar is in the back of the room as well. Bob, you want to do it from there with a microphone?
Actually, I'll do it from here because Dave Spar is right next to me and he may want to chime in on
All
some
right.
of the things.
Okay, tag team, away you go.
All right. Just several things. We just got the phone with Supervisor Turnbow, actually 2 or 3 calls today. Excited the fact that after, as you well know, District 2 comprises not only the south end of El Dorado Hills, but we also have Cameron Park. We also have areas like Grizzly Flats, and there's a lot of agricultural and farmlands, quite frankly. And so we have a very, very diverse community. As a result of the Caldora fire, obviously this has been a real focus for George since that occurred. And 2 things have actually happened. 2 weeks ago, we were able to actually do a ceremony to commemorate the fact that a number of homes had been approved through a joint venture with a nonprofit and with our county government to allow the construction of small homes, but still very important homes for at least a dozen residents up there that have been living in their trailers or in tents for some time. It won't address all the homeless issues, but it's a good first start, given the fact the state gives 0 money to this effort. And the fact that we were able to move forward, both the planning staff and the supervisor, the entire group of supervisors were able to pull this together is, I think, something we should be very proud of as a county. Also, one thing that George has been working on since that point was working with the Department of Agriculture, U.S. Department of Agriculture, and Department of Interior on proper forestry management. So this didn't occur as often. The good news is that last night, the United States Senate passed a bill that will address many of our concerns. That still goes down to the U.S. House of Representatives, But we believe that that could have some significant impact on us. Also, another wrinkle on this thing is that if this thing goes forward, as currently anticipated through the legislation, the regional headquarters for that effort will be here in El Dorado County.
Wow.
So we will be able to, again, not control, but influence what happens in our area even more. So both in terms of our culture and forestry management and the like. So those are really terrific things that are happening. Also within the district, and I know this is not the focus of this community, but we are also representing Cameron Park. Cameron Park is involved just like El Dorado Hills, and you might want to be, you're probably going to address this later on, John, the objective
Yes.
design standards. But those meetings have also occurred, just like the attendance up to this point here in El Dorado Hills. It's been pretty slim. But I think very, very important that we take a look at this. From my perspective, having the objective standards is one of the best insurance policies that we have to push back on state mandates. If we have standards that we can defend according to SB 35 and other legislation, they can't jam certain things down our throats. Now, you might also be talking about later on today, John, I haven't coordinated any of this with you, so I apologize. The Green Valley family apartments. That complex is about 200 units of all low-income housing, guaranteed low-income housing. It is situated just on the border of Cameron Park. It's actually formerly Cameron Park, but just right across the street from El Dorado Hills on Bass Lake Road and Green Valley Road. That project was denied by the supervisors less than a year ago. The planning department is now moving this new proposal forward as an ministerial decision based upon the objective standards that were approved for the entire county. The problem is that no objective standards exist for either Cameron Park or El Dorado Hills. I would urge everybody to just keep your eyes and ears open on that, because that I don't believe is a situation that's just going to simply go away. Last week, the commission also reviewed an application by Serrano to review the proposal for an additional group of houses in Serrano for the M5. Dave and I split our votes on that one, but nevertheless, the commission voted to approve the proposal as stated by the planning commission. One of the things that I found most interesting in this whole thing is the fact that the conclusions drawn by staff and concurred by the Community Services District was that all parkland requirements by Serrano have been fulfilled. That's arguable. But nevertheless, this thing stands unless there's an appeal. And then if there's an appeal, which I believe there probably will.
There's 4 appeals. 4 as of today. There's more coming.
Okay, go ahead and finish, Bob.
Okay, anyway, that I think the decision and those kind of presumptions will be of real interest for us all to take a look at. In addition to that, not only did we just address M5, but later on in the year, Planning Commission now also looks at extensions to Serrano Village C1 and D1.
Okay.
And so, we'll be, again, probably things you'll have on your agenda today, John, so I don't mean, but.
No,
again,
that's fine. No, that's fine.
It all ties in, and this is the kind of activity, I guess, the Planning Commission is worked in, and that's why I'm glad my partner next to me is next to me. And then the final thing I wanted to mention, it was the primary reason why you'd asked me to come here today, was to address what's on our agenda next week. I spent about an hour and a half today with planning staff going over and the administrative ordinance changes that are being proposed for zoning a lot of them make perfectly good sense. And are really truly administrative. The one that probably may not be the most straightforward is the codification of a 2023 determination letter written by the director of planning called Director's Determination on Fulfillment Center, Heavy Distribution, and Parcel Hub Uses. The commission will be asked to basically approve and make changes to and allow her position to stand. And the reason that, again, I bring this up forward is the fact that many of us are very tender still from Project Frontier issues. We have not forgotten those discussions. To my mind, it's important that we actually ask ourselves, what should R&D should it really be? What are the logical uses for R&D? Because right now, our business park is being used for virtually anything.
Yes.
In addition to that, we have light industrial and heavy industrial also definitions being defined here as part of this proposal. And it's appropriate. I think it's appropriate now that Dave, speak to it himself. But to my mind, it's very important that we step back and just not treat this thing as administrative. The wounds are too open still, and we can't afford it to have this thing go through it without an examination of what took place and what do we really want to do in terms of these kind of things, because they're again, that's going to be the subject for Thursday's meeting. And if anybody has any comments, I encourage people to take a look at it, make your comments, and so we can actually have an educated view next Thursday. Dave, did you want to say anything more on that point?
What, you said that it's Dorado, but in an application. What village?
M5.
Well, so,
Yeah.
M5 is across from the Sangiovese Gate on Appian Way. So, yeah, but Bob had also mentioned they're looking for, is it a time extension? I'm trying to remember, on Village C.
I'm not quite sure yet, Dave.
Okay, so something on Village C. And then the other thing that we mentioned, and we had talked about it, I want to say it was on Christmas, Village D1 up here on the hill, literally right behind the fire station here, and then down towards Strong Parkway. They're looking to develop that now. It's 35 lots, residential lots, and then there's some open space lots and a road. But they're making some changes to it. I looked last night, and the application had not been accepted formally yet because it was missing information, and that was at the end of the year last year. There are actual documents in there last night, so I'll go ahead and put them on the APAC website tomorrow. But yeah, so there's a lot of things going on with Serrano. Thanks, Dave.
Dave, you want to go in?
Dave Spar, Planning Commission, District 1. Just want to comment on the research and development zone. It's a curious zone in El Dorado County. In Placer County, Sacramento County, and Yolo County, research and development, or R&D, is reserved for medical and scientific uses. In this county, it's distribution, fulfillment, logistics, warehouse. And our poor industrial park has some warehouse in it now, but our roads and transportation network are not suitable for logistics and fulfillment centers. So I'd like to see those removed from the R&D zone. Thank you.
And well, before I ask for questions, I know that Linda, you sent in a letter. You have one. So I was thinking I'd be writing a lot over the holiday weekend to get something into your commission. Linda has a very good letter that addresses many concerns. Did you want to touch on any of it real quick?
I don't mind. Linda Campbell, for all of you that don't know me, hi, welcome. I'm so glad to see some of the kids here. I did look it over. I actually I originally had one idea and then I looked it over more and came up with another just to try to simplify the whole concept of logistics. So in some of the documents that were provided, there was a little matrix and planning director had put a reference to a California code that recently implemented from the state. And it actually really says specifically logistics. And there's a whole bunch of other controls around it that clearly kind of don't fit the area that we're talking about. So the recommendation that I made was that we have zoning and then we have land use within that zoning. So my recommendation was keep the zoning the way it is, come up with a new use type of logistics. So it's really clear. And then also don't allow it to be done in R&D. So anyway, some of that. And then obviously build some more robust information behind it. So if we put it in a industrial heavy zoning, that we still know what the requirements are and we're not having to dig through everything anytime something comes up. So that was one.
Yeah. It was very timely that that came in today because it came into my email and I said, oh, okay, that's great. And so everybody remembers that Linda's the chair of our standing transportation committee and helps us with all things, well, more than just transportation, but a very heavy focus on transportation. So I was happy to see that. I won't have to write as much this weekend. Thank you. So are there any questions for Commissioner Williams and Commissioner Spar? Kelly, you have a microphone back there?
Really loud.
It's for the Zoom.
Oh, it's for the Zoom. Hi, Zoom people. I would just like to throw out there, because I just asked ChatGPT, but if we're going to be consistent with what we call things, Costco by definition is a warehouse. It is warehouse sales. It is, so when we're talking about consistency, a warehouse retailer, would that then fall under when we're talking about we have all this warehouse?
It's commercial.
Yeah. So it falls into commercial because they are doing sales out of it.
Even though it's like bulk warehouse
Right.
style?
Right. So there is in the zoning matrix, there was a section for commercial area and then the land use is associated with it. So Costco falls within that. That's different from the industrial R&D center. So technically Costco right now could not go into the business park because it's
But it can go on Silver Valley.
yeah, because it's commercial.
Yeah, it's a regional commercial too. But it's a big box. Yes.
That's ridiculous.
So, all right.
Seems like it should go in business.
Okay. So we got through all of that. Great. Oh, go ahead, Tara.
I have a question.
Just push it, turns green.
Okay, Aaron McCann. I have a question for you guys. Thank you for coming. There is many people, I've gotten four today was the fourth group of people that have come forward wanting to appeal Dorado Village M5. The four groups, I have never seen this in the 35 years I've been with APAC. I haven't been here all the time, so you guys haven't seen me all the time. But when I was quite active years ago, I've never seen 4 appeals on one job. We're doing there's something wrong with that. Number one, I've spent 60 hours looking at that, 60 hours. First question I had is, where's the application? What application did you guys look at? Because I looked at it, there was no application forward in any of the documents, There was no new application. Yeah, and the commissioners were saying I'm right. That right there is how do you come forward with no application? The first application for the 10 lots was it expired in 2025. Parker Development came forward again with a 20 units that they wanted to do that was denied. Then they came forward with this project, but no application. I kept asking the Planning Commission and they delivered me the day of the Planning Commission on May 14th, they delivered me a zoning ordinance and general plan amendment. Was there a zoning ordinance and general plan amendment in that? No, there wasn't. Everything on the site, everything in Legistar, everything in says only a TM and a PD, only a tentative map and a PD. How can they throw in a zoning and a at the 10th hour, 11th hour? No public view, no knowledge. So you're saying that a zoning overlay was approved in that?
Back to the original land development, that's why it was
What original plan development? There was no original. It
26 years old. 38.
okay. Are we talking about the specific plan? Okay, I'm not talking about specific plan. I'm talking about the application that they have to submit in order to come forward with the 10 lots. They had to, and just a basic application, right? It was not disclosed. And it doesn't exist. It does not exist. Planner Cameron Welch sent me the application that they put forward at the 11th hour on the 14th. On the 14th. It wasn't in Legistar. It wasn't on the, if you go to the El Dorado County website and you go to projects in my area and you go down to the documents listed, wasn't there. It wasn't on the Legistar. It wasn't anywhere. There was no application. I kept asking the county, where's the application? Where's the application? Finally, on the morning of the 14th at 7 a.m., they sent me a zoning ordinance and general plan amendment. You can't do that on a 1988 specific plan. Automatically doesn't make it, and I'm sorry, Bob, you can go. But what I want to say is that automatically takes it off the table for a 1988 specific plan that's 38 years old. Because you're now saying it's a general plan amendment. You can't do a general plan amendment in a specific plan without doing an EIR or even a tailored EIR, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we are four, but what I'm saying is, did you guys not have an application? That you don't need an application.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
So-
In all the documents that I've read,
Tara.
I'm sorry, all the and I'll just leave it at this.
Okay.
Time out.
Yeah.
You have to have an application. Okay. I know. But this is
So-
all projects. I have to go through an application if
Tara.
I want an encroachment permit, right?
Tara, we have a 3-minute limit when we're doing the.
Thank
back and
you.
forth. No,
Thank
but
you for listening.
I had a question for
Okay.
you. I had a question
Go
just because I know that there was one appeal filed. So how does it work if there's multiple appeals? Do they get put together or are they heard separately? I would assume
That's
they'd
what
be.
I would like to know, and we
Okay.
would like the county to respond on that.
Okay.
You guys let us know, or
Well,
anybody.
It's not up to the commissioners. It'll be up to
No,
the.
but I mean, county as a whole.
Okay.
The question is, what happens if there's multiple appeals on the same item? There's only been one time since I've been paying attention to such matters here, where there was multiple appeals on the same item. And what occurred there was that each appellant was given
Okay.
their amount of time to express.
So, yeah.
But it's happening on the same day.
Okay. So all
And the
four
same
would be
hearing.
heard at the same time.
Correct,
They all get a chance to weigh in. Okay.
correct. Uh-huh.
Okay. So, all right.
Okay, so Bob, we would like to choose, I think we all have the same.
let's stop.
Okay, we have,
I just have one more question, and it's about the process of how we would like to all go and inclusively on the appeal. And I think, John, that's a very fair question to ask.
it is a fair, but we
So-
have to ask that they're not going to decide it here and
No,
there's
they're not, but there should be precedence over, has there been appeals? Can we
So-
all come together and do our appeal at once? Yes or no?
Again, so. Yeah.
Who? Karen Gardner?
Okay. So. we're not
Raphael?
Kara,
Who?
excuse me. We're not deciding it tonight and we should remind everybody, we're advisory. We have no authority on anything, but we will be writing letters asking those questions. So, and I appreciate when you CC, when I saw that there was no application, I was busy with the work thing, so I didn't get in on it. But if you continue to keep us in the loop, I appreciate it. All right. So we're moving forward. The next item on our agenda is a happy item. So let me throw this up here. Where am I at? Here. Again. Okay. So tonight, this is something I've been looking forward to. We're doing a recognition presentation. We're recognizing the participation and contributions of student members of the Rolling Hills Middle School GATE program for their efforts in reviewing and commenting on the El Dorado Hills Costco Draft EIR project. So now, we're weird. We do this because we do this. These kids have school and things to get done and activities, and they took this on their own. So Kelly, I'd like to, Kelly, if you come up here, we'll have you up at this microphone. If you want to bring the students up with you. If that's green, you can talk and everybody in the room should be able to hear you. Okay.
My name is Kelly Rose. I'm a sixth grade teacher at Rolling Hills Middle School, and I'm also the advisor for the GATE Club, which is for gifted and talented education. And we have 3 young men here joining us from that club. And what happens is that I lead a group about every month. I put on some sort of an activity for these students to explore different things like chemistry, STEM, problem solving. A few weeks ago, they built and launched rockets. So one of the things that came up, Noah actually brought to my attention and said, hey, instead of doing what you had planned this month, can we look at the Costco thing? And of course, I mean, we're always looking, advocating for themselves. And so what we ended up doing is we looked at the draft, we broke into groups, and kids each picked a section and researched the measures there. And while the school district, school and myself does not take a position on the project, the kids are trying to find flaws in the program because these kids went to school at Oak Meadow. And to be honest, it was something that is a little bothersome to them that something like a Costco would go right next to school. And so once they did their research, we all came back together and put a letter together to submit their findings. And they were very thoughtful. And we appreciate you and the community taking time to recognize Noah, Rashawn, and Shehead for what they've done. And they've stepped up, and this is now their second community engagement. They were also asked to come to the board meeting for the Buckeye District to be recognized. And it's just it's a really nice thing to see kids getting involved in local matters. And so we thank you.
Well, we thank you, and we'll do this one more time real quick, but I was curious. I suspected you all attended school. Just quick, what surprised you when you read this? Were you surprised by how much there was to read, or were you surprised by just the process? If you don't want to talk, you don't have to talk. We have your written report, so. Come up, talk on the microphone.
I was surprised that there are a lot of weird terms that everybody used for the different projects, the different things about.
It is, but now you know them, and so now we're gonna ask you to do a lot more work in the future. So I'd like to come up real quick. These, let's see, they're. There you go. Now we actually have one for you. So we wanted to thank you guys. This is not easy things to do, and participating in the community. So our goal is always, we don't decide things, but we just want the result to be the best it can be for our community. And just by providing feedback and working collaboratively with county staff, with the applicants, we hope to get the best we can for them. So thank you all for doing that, and have a great summer.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Before you guys go, I would like you to come back and follow the process and see what happens to your responses to the, and because we need more young people to get to know about government and how government operates. So love to have you guys come back.
Okay. What?
I haven't run into her in a while.
Okay, so get ready. Let me move this forward. Here we go. So back to driving here. Ready? It's gonna get bright. Sorry, guys. Okay, so our guest speaker tonight, back for a return engagement, Rafael Martinez, the director of the El Dorado County Transportation Department. We recently had talked about the CIP and sort of the timing of things and when is the right time for a project to be on the CIP? When does it, should be in advance of development? Should be concurrent with development? We had all kinds of questions. So Rafael's agreed to come and have a discussion with us tonight. We have a few slides and there's your microphone and you know how it works here.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming here tonight. My name is Rafael Martinez. I am the Director of Transportation for El Dorado County. I am here joined by my staff, Adam Bain, Supervising Civil Engineer for the department, as well as Zach Oakes, Senior Traffic Engineer for the department as well. As you can see, I bring them along because they are very useful, and in particular when having to do with complicated traffic and transportation related issues. And I have been following Stephanie from the CSD. What I don't know.
Stephanie McCann. Jansen.
Oh, Jansen.
Yeah.
And so she.
Well, I said McCann.
Yeah, I know. And
Stephanie Jansen.
and she's been doing a great program where I think it seems like a coffee with Stephanie, where she's been giving information to the public about how the CSD functions and debunking some misunderstandings about the CSD and some of the processes. And I thought, you know what? John invited me over. I said, you know what? Why don't I tackle some of that with APAC and start with the CIP. And depending on how this goes, we might go back. I get a lot of questions regarding the traffic engineering process and the environmental process for projects, as well as our maintenance program and how we go about deciding where we maintain roads and how we come about deciding where signals and traffic engineering or traffic signs and striping go in for different areas and how that is all based. And so this might be one of many opportunities for me to come here and give a presentation for APAC. But as John said, today I am going to be talking about CIP. So what is the CIP? The CIP is, and I'm going to be giving a very broad overview. There is actually a lot of parameters, variables, and issues that go into a capital improvements program. It took me approximately 5 to 7 years to finally really figure it out. And so I'm not going to try and compress that into one evening meeting, but kind of give you a general overview of understanding of what we do and how we do it, and then kind of open it up for questions from there. So a CIP, so Capital Improvements Program, is a list of capital projects. So we're talking about roads, bridges, culverts, drainage ditches, signals, guardrailing, striping, anything that has to do with modifications to a roadway in the right of way. And it lists all the projects, and they include the schedules, the estimates, and the funding for those projects. Now, they also have somewhat of a prioritization, depending on engineering parameters as to when these projects are going to be coming to fruition, and scheduling them within our 5, 10, 15, and 20-year horizons. This program is reviewed yearly to make sure it's up to date, make sure these projects are either on schedule, have funding, are being evaluated properly. And then every 5 years, we have what is called a major update. And that is, we review all the projects in the program to make sure, are they still relevant? Are they still needed? Are they still something that the community wants? Or have the construction costs gone up or maybe down? And so then we reevaluate everything to make sure that it is true and up to date. Oh, and one other thing, that the original capital improvements program is based off of the general plan. So the county has a general plan that was adopted in 2004. And that general plan dictates how many units the county is going to be able to build out to. And so then that is critical, and I'll get to that later on in my slide. How many units that a county is going to be building out to is important, because it depends, that will dictate what our infrastructure will be. If we are going to have 300,000, a population of 300,000, then we are going to need a lot more infrastructure. But if we only have a planned out general plan of 180,000, 190, or 200,000, well, then we need less infrastructure. So it's critical that general plan and any amendments for specific plans to that general plan are critical. So next one. So as I stated, a general plan is very similar to planning for your own future. So let's say, for example, a typical American family, when they have children, they have to plan out for housing, how many vehicles they are going to have, the children's education. All of that is going to dictate how much income the family needs to bring in, the expenses, what savings you need to make sure you have preparation for their education when you plan to retire. And that is going to be dependent on the timing of when the children arrive, or when the housing arrives, when the homes arrive. Well, same thing goes for, on the right there, a general plan will dictate our freeway interchanges, our bridges, how many signals. And dependent on that infrastructure, we will then have to determine what our revenue is going to be, what the construction costs are going to be, the fund balance in that bank account, and then the design, the construction is all prioritized and scheduled based off of when those needs occur. Now, if you hit the button one time, oh, perfect. As you can see there, as sometimes in families, you think, oh, I want to have a big family. I want to have 5 children. But as you go along, you realize, no, I'm sticking at 3. Some families like, I'm sticking at 1. Okay, 1's enough. Well, guess what? Now you don't need as much income, or in our case, revenue. Now because your expenses go down. You're not going to need as big a house. You're not going to need as much of an education balance, or as large of an SUV to house that many kids. So that's why we review our capital improvements program every year, because most times our general plan or specific plans plan out for much greater intensities of larger populations, higher traffic populations, and most times those projects come in lower with less intensities. therefore needing less costs, needing less revenues. And that's why our capital improvements program is dynamic. It is fluid. It is not static. It changes with time, dependent on what has been approved and what is still to be. Next slide. Yes, go ahead.
I think it'll come up, right?
Sure.
So the capital improvement program is specifically for new or expansion major initiatives. It is different from maintenance.
No, there are maintenance components in it. There are, yes,
Okay, but when you did Governor's Village,
yes.
that was maintenance.
That
not-
was maintenance. Yes,
Okay.
correct.
So just so everybody knows that there's some line of distinction.
And you're right, I am gonna bring that up
Okay.
later on. Thank you, Liz, I
Okay.
appreciate it. Not a problem, not a problem. So, as I stated, our general plan was adopted back in 2004. And this is a graph of the number of permits El Dorado County has been pulling for units, homes, from 1999 all the way to the present date. As you can see there, between 1999 and 2005, we went gangbusters. I mean, the county was just exploding. And so then everybody at that time thought, oh, you know what? We got our general plan wrong. Hit the button again. And they anticipated that our growth was going to go through the roof. They were essentially anticipating our growth was going to be somewhere in the vicinity between 300 and 400,000 residents in El Dorado County. Because as you can see there, it was going in that direction. But obviously, the Great Depression came along and the great equalizer and great realizer that, you know, things don't go up indefinitely. And so that growth rate that you can see, that red line, was a growth rate of well over 3% growth rate year over year, compounding. And so that's why at times there have been misunderstandings, misconceptions of the need for the number of infrastructure, number of bridges, number of roadway lanes, number of signals that the county was anticipating back in the 2000s, in the aughts, when they thought that Latrobe was going to need to be 20 lanes, or that White Rock was going to be 10. Those misunderstandings, as you can see, came due to the misunderstanding of how growth happens, especially in a rural county that has got a blank canvas and has a lot of potential for growth. Hit the next button again. Which is why we have a lot of skepticism when my department comes back to the Board of Supervisors and tells them that our new growth, that new red line that you see there, is not well over 3%, but actually more in the vicinity of just under 1% year over year. And that, as you can see, has materialized and a realistic growth. All the low-hanging fruit of where to develop, how to develop, all the flatter portions of the county have been developed in the 2000s, and now it's the more difficult, the more complex, and now the more of an infill project that we are proposing and planning for our future, coming to realize that, okay, we are going to only have, 2 or 3 kids and not the 5 or 8 that we originally planned. Yes, next slide.
Can I stop you a
Yes,
minute?
please, by all means.
Are you taking into consideration communities that are outside El Dorado Hills? For example, Folsom. Folsom is building a huge new city. And all of that traffic is eventually going to come down White Rock and come into, so that really has nothing to do with the number of houses that are being built here. It has to do what our neighbors are doing. Do you take that into
As a matter of
consideration?
fact, yes, John, we do. We have a model that takes into account their TAZs, traffic area zones, where it models where traffic is coming from, as well as where traffic is going. So not only are residents going out, but people coming in. And there's a lot of complexities of people coming in and let's say, but they're only going to the city of Placerville, or they're bypassing the county altogether to go to Amador County for wine tasting. So it takes all of that into account, and we incorporate SACOG, Caltrans, and various other traffic model analysis in order to come up with what is just, and as well as we analyze our existing data, what existing we see, and we forecast dependent on that. So yes, that is a great question. Thank you. And so then, thank you, Linda, for bringing up, we do have two different budgets that the department utilizes for its primary purposes. The one there on the left is for capital projects, and that is for new bridges or retrofitting existing bridges or new roadways, winding roadways. And then the pie chart on the right is for maintenance. And both of those buckets come from different locations. As you see on the left, the primary source of funding for our capital projects, bridges, roads, comes from what are grant funds. So from the federal government, from the state, anything that is outside of the county. We do have some traffic impact fees, and I'll get to that in a little bit. And then we have local discretionary, which is funding that comes to the Department of Transportation from either general fund or from other local entities within the county. And then the funding for maintenance, that comes primarily from your property taxes, your gas taxes, and that's what we utilize to fill your potholes. Which, by the way, I will stick around for a few minutes afterwards so you can tell me about your favorite pothole that you need me to fill up. So that's what my primary duty is at the county.
But you also have a very useful tool on the website for reporting.
Yes, we do.
I encourage you to use it.
Yes. If you do go to El Dorado County, so website, we do have a very elaborate way to either email or through Facebook or through phone call to get a hold of us. So that is, as I stated, pie chart on the right is for the potholes, the brushing, the ditching, and the roadway surface improvements that we do. Next one. And then when it comes to the impacts on our roads due to development, we have what is called the traffic impact fee. And that is what we charge developers in order to build either new roads or widen existing roads or create culverts or ditches or bridges due to the impacts from development. Now, this is very closely monitored and heavily scrutinized because it is an impact fee that has been, actually, it's a nationwide program. And not only does the county partake in it, all municipalities partake in some kind of impact fee. And as a matter of fact, there have been court cases, Nolan, Dolan, and even more interestingly, Austin, which happens to be the one that El Dorado County was a part of, and where it is scrutinized to the level of how the 8 municipalities charge developments for the impacts due to the traffic or due to air or due to environmental aspects. All of that is scrutinized by government codes, by subdivision map acts, by the Mitigation Fee Act, which dictates how transportation departments can charge these developments. And up there, they can only pay for their impacts. So let's say a development was to come in and their impacts are going to contribute to volume on a roadway to the degree of increasing it by 20%. Well, then they can only pay for impacts up to that 20%. They can't pay for more than that. And that's where our capital improvements program, as well as our TIF program, which is also analyzed once a year and then looked at, scrutinized very closely every 5 years, then calculates what the impact is going to be. Now, there are several caveats, and we do have measures in this county, such as Measure E, that state that if a development causes a failing level of service to a roadway or to a signal, well, then they are responsible for all of that impact if we haven't planned for it. So let's say, for example, when Project Frontier was considering coming into El Dorado County, their impacts were going to be so significant that we had not planned for it, and they were going to have above and beyond mitigation that was not part of our team plan. And so then we hadn't gotten to that point. They decided to back out for some reason. I wonder why. Before we got to that point, but we were getting to the level of determining what those impacts were going to be. And so then this is the part that is very critical because as maybe, I think it was 1,400 of your residents that are in El Dorado Hills now know that if we don't do our job right, that the county does pay a penalty for it. And unfortunately, back about a decade ago, there was a shortcoming that the county did not properly transparently provide data out to the public on how this impact fee worked. And because of that, now the county does have to mitigate and basically pay out for that, which then it's an impact to all of you, all of us, because that means less funding for any of our improvements that we need in the county. So it is very important. Not only are we looking out for your concerns in terms of traffic impacts, we are also making sure that we are abiding by the laws so that we don't make any mistakes similar to our predecessors in that we don't cross our T's and dot our I's and have something to where it's going to impact the future of our CIP. Yes, John.
Question. Are these temp fees, are they spent only in the area where the developer has caused, a need for road repair and anything, or is it put in a general pot throughout the whole county?
So, like I stated earlier, the TIF and the CIP is very, it's a very big equation that goes into how it's all calculated. And we do take into account that, let's say, people in Grizzly Flats will come to El Dorado Hills for entertainment or for dinner. And so then that is taken into account. And so a TIF fee, because a TIF fee also, it's not just to developers, it's also for somebody who wants to build a single family home. So let's say somebody wants to build a home in either Georgetown or Grizzly Flats or Pleasant Valley. They do have a percentage that is calculated due to the anticipated trip that they will have from their region into our retail, commercial, and entertainment region. It is anticipated. We take that into account. So there is variation for that anticipated trip, but for the most part, yes. If you live in, we have 3 zones: rural, and then we have semi-rural, which is like Cameron Park, Shingle Springs, Diamond Springs, and then we have more urbanized, which is El Dorado Hills, zone A, B, and C. And so if you live in zone C, you are probably going to pay the TIF due to a lot of the trips that you do in zone C for the most. So does that answer your question?
No.
Okay, great.
Because it seems to me that you're putting it, it seems to me that you're putting money into a pot and we really don't know if that money is being spent where the development is happening. That was really my question.
Back I'm a civil engineer with County DOT. Raphael mentioned at the beginning. So your question, and to maybe dive into it just a little more, Raphael mentioned the 3 zones.
if a building permit is pulled in Zone C, which is essentially the El Dorado Hills community region, that money goes into the Zone C account to pay for projects that are within the Zone C boundaries. If you look at our fee schedule, you'll notice that the fees in Zone A, which is essentially kind of the rural horseshoe-shaped areas from the North County up to the summit, the Echo Summit, right before you get into the Tahoe Basin, and then coming back down around south of the Highway 50 corridor. That's Zone A. Those fees are the lowest because there are very few projects within the TIF program in Zone A because there is not a lot of growth. There is hardly any growth projected in those rural areas compared with Zone C, where the fees are much higher because this is where most of the growth and development occurs. And so those fees are higher because we have more projects. We've got White Rock widening, we've got Latrobe widening, we've got Green Valley widening, we've got the El Dorado Hills Boulevard interchange. All of those are Zone C projects that get paid for by new development in Zone C.
But the fees may be higher, but they're still going into a pot.
They're going
And the question that I want to know is the majority of the money that's been caused by this building in Zone C, is it being spent in Zone C?
So we've got 4 pots. We've got a Highway 50 pot. Every permit in the county that is pulled pays a Highway 50 fee and a local road fee. So they all pay the Highway 50 fee. The local road fee is what goes into the El Dorado Hills pot or the Cameron Park, Shingle Springs, Diamond Springs, Zone B pot to pay for projects within that zone where their building permit is issued.
Just one other question. If you have several developers developing in the same area, do you take into consideration their joint impact on an area, and do they pay a TIM fee that's combined because of what they're doing?
So we charge the traffic impact fees per building permit. So if you come in, if there's a village in Serrano that's coming in to pull a big chunk of building permits, they're going to pay their permit per permit. Every time they come in to pay that permit, we're going to charge them that one traffic impact fee that's based on a range of square footages. Larger homes pay a larger fee.
Okay.
Within our modeling and our growth projections that we do account for, forecast where we believe the growth is going to occur. And that's why we update the program, do our major updates at least every 5 years.
Okay.
True up with where we thought things were going to be, where they actually are, and then reforecast based on new updated data that we're getting.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Similar, hi, my name is Karen, I'm a Dorado. Similar, but not quite so, sorry if I don't understand all the terms properly. So we do pay a
So people on Zoom can.
Hi, my name is Karen. I'm a Serrano resident and I have more questions about the traffic impact fee. So for example, you say it's per permit and they pay a fee, and if it's a developer, they pay, you said up to say 20% of the fee. So, and it's based on per square footage and whatnot. And you mentioned about housing and how many units, et cetera. So I'm going to gear my questions more toward Costco. So for them, it's going to be a warehouse that we establish. It's going to be per square footage of that area, and it's going to be that one permit. So based on that, it's going to be, say, 20% or whatever number that you stated it was. So I have a few questions. I'm going to try to get organized. So one, how do you determine their traffic impact? Is it just the space that they occupy? Is it just the road from Silva Valley over? As an example, if I'm have everyone from like Shingle Springs and beyond coming and they don't want to hit the Silva Valley traffic, they'll hit the Bass Lake traffic exit and then drive all the way down Serrano. Those roads will be impacted too. Is that accounted for in this 20%? Or how do you, so that's one question. Next is, say you talked about like there's several developers and it's collectively amount of a pool and it goes to all the projects in there. But say if you have 5 developers, one, say Costco, will cause like 80% of the road damages just because it's a lot of traffic and it's a lot of constant volume. versus housing is going to be going to work, coming back from work, dropping kids off, coming back from that. It's less time on the road. How do you determine that if they're the ones causing more of the impact, that they would pay a greater amount? Do you assess it annually? Do you do that 5-year assessment? And once it's just like, how easy is it to enforce? You pay more because you cause more road damage. Okay, that is my 2 very long questions. Thank you.
Do my best. Hope I can do this. Two great questions. Your first question about how we address land uses that are different from residential and how we assess that fee. When we do our calculations to come up with the fee schedule, we utilize, there's an organization called the Institute for Transportation. And they publish some reference manuals that are called the Trip Generation Reference Manual. And it has several dozens and dozens of different land use types in there that we use when we are analyzing traffic impact studies for proposed development projects. We also use them to come up with our fee schedule. And so while we charge single-family homes based on their square footage, that is based off a land use type that has a data driven trip generation rate that is gathered from data across the country to come up with those numbers. There are also land use types within those trip generation manuals for different types of retail development, whether it's fast food or gas stations or warehouse clubs, discount stores, big box retail, supermarkets. All of those land use types are contained in there. So we do account for the fact that something like a Costco will generate a significant amount of traffic, significant number of trips. That is baked into the fee schedule by land use type. So we charge for commercial retail, we charge per square foot. And so, you know, obviously a Costco warehouse of 140 or 150,000 square feet, that's going to be a significant amount to pay. To your second question about taking into consideration the fact that introducing more traffic to the Silver Valley interchange, folks might take alternate routes to get there, spreading out the traffic as a result of that one project. Our model also does its best to account for that. Rafael mentioned CAZs earlier, those are traffic analysis zones. So essentially a geographic area looking down at a flat piece of paper. Within that, we're able to assign land use data. We can assign a certain number of single family homes, square footage for retail, commercial space, office space, industrial warehouse, age restricted housing, all sorts of things. So when we forecast our growth, we look at what the current zoning, current general plan land use designations are. And after reviewing the growth rates with the board and getting their approval, we'll go through and assign where we think growth is going to occur. And so the model takes that information and essentially says, okay, we've got all of these residential uses in these other geographic areas. We've got this new commercial shopping area. It's closer to their home now. That's probably where those trips are going to go. And it models and assigns those trips to the roadway network to account for this road is getting congested. So now folks are probably going to go a different way because it's going to save them money. So that's how we attempt to account for what you were describing, folks finding new ways to get places.
And by the way, that is done with all projects, not just Costco's. Any land development, any retail, commercial, warehouse, all of that, all of those projects have environmental documents, traffic impact analysis, and we review them. And we send it out to an independent third-party reviewer to review it as well to make sure that it is being analyzed. So all of that is reviewed, and we're in the process of doing that right now with Costco. Yeah. Yes. Next one.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a question on the Country Club Exchange that keeps being kind of thrown down the road when it comes to funding, when it's going to be coming, where it's located. And yet Costco, which is going to help eliminate some of the traffic that is going to be at that center, 50 and Silva. is that a part of your decision-making process and funding? And like, does anybody have any idea when that road is actually going to be coming in?
I can tell you that as of right now, we do not have an anticipated timeline of when that project is going to be coming in, Country Club. Right now, our priorities are in many other different locations, such as the interchange, as Zach said, the interchange at Latrobe and US 50, White Rock. Those are our priorities right now. But we do, as I stated earlier, when I was showing the CIP slide, is that we're always planning for that future, because we look at 20 years ahead of us, not just 5 or 10. We're looking 20 years out. And approximately 20 years ago, when we were developing our general plan, they were also doing the same thing. Now they were overly overestimating the number of impacts that we were going to have, but they were trying to do the same thing in determining what the impacts were, and they were designing and planning for White Rock, Latrobe, Silva Valley, Harvard. They were planning out for that. So we are right now in the very, very long-term planning stages for Country Club, but we do not have a timeline, a schedule, a funding prioritization for that project right now. Does that answer your question?
It does, but I also want to reiterate that the general plan, I think, was not taking into account the capacity of a Costco, because a Costco, for example, is not apples to apples with 8 big box. And it's kind of deviated into other different kinds of regional commercial. So I don't know how anybody could really be efficient in knowing exactly what that impact is until it's actually built.
And that is a very good question, and exactly why I kind of wanted to have this presentation, because as you saw earlier, I had the slide there showing a family of, a mom and a dad and 5 kids, and then they scaled it back to 3 kids. Well, we actually, over the years, have been doing that exactly. Our planners, our specific plans did anticipate for larger growth. As a matter of fact, Creekside had anticipated a much larger impact, a much larger trip generation than what it is right now. And so we plan out for, or we plan out for the worst case scenario, and then we take whatever has been developed now, which sometimes is less, sometimes it's more, but then we reevaluate that every 5 years to see, okay, are we in line with what our general plan said, or are we not? And right now, currently, we are, but there are other impacts that you're right, a Costco will bring forward, and we are analyzing that with them to make sure that if they do have impacts that are greater beyond our general plan, that they will have to mitigate. And as I stated earlier, if a development causes impacts that are greater than what is in our general plan, then yes, that project either has to go away because our general plan cannot adapt to that, handle that, or they need to mitigate it, meaning they need to either widen a road or widen a bridge or whatever the case may be. And then it's left up to the Board of Supervisors to determine whether that is a suitable mitigation for that project impact. So that's a very good question, and it's asked a lot.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. Any other questions? Yes, Tara.
Yeah, thanks, Raphael. Raphael and I go back a long way, and we've had discussions. We had, and I very respect his background. But I want to just clarify that yes, every project does not have an EIR and does not have a TIS. They may tear off TIS. Case in point, and they do not review every design intersection. I'll give you one example. Just what we talked about earlier, the Serrano M5 project. A TIS, a selective TIS was done on that. They didn't even review the encroachment permit that didn't exist because it was a landlocked parcel. 10 lots were graded on a landlocked parcel. So I want to ask DOT, how do you permit landlocked parcels? How do you give a permit How do you approve projects on a landlocked parcel? And hold that thought, because you're even further, and this is why I came to the meeting today, Raphael, it's because even further, we're seeing the county, we're seeing DOT approve a lot of projects and not look at off-site mitigations. This is really serious because it's, oh yes, look at generations that just came back and look at my comments, all 20 pages of them. Go ahead. Did you read them yet? None of the offsites were even reviewed during that. So it was like, okay, okay, and we can agree to disagree, but what we're seeing is we're seeing projects come forward and not look at offsite improvements. We, in Raphael, this is serious. This is our tax dollars. This is our community we live in. We want good stewardship, right? We want good governance. That's all we're asking. We want you to look at offsite improvements.
Yes.
Serrano Village Am. Why didn't they look at that intersection at San Giovese? Why didn't they look at there was no review of and no encroachment. Did they apply for an encroachment permit for an access?
So
It's not accurate?
I'll have Adam answer that since he has a lot.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Adam and I go way back to
We've known each other for.
since we were puppies. Go ahead.
I understand your concerns, but some of the statements you're making are not factual.
Please correct me, because I want to know.
It's not a landlocked parcel, it has access to,
I'm sorry, what was that?
You made a statement that the M5 project was approved being landlocked. How does that happen? It's not an accurate statement. They have access to Appian Way. We did do a traffic impact analysis on that project as well.
You did do it. Yeah, I reviewed it too, and you didn't address any of the encroachment into project. You completely ignored the access to the project. No, the only intersection you evaluated was down at Silva Valley, and I reviewed it. I'll meet with you in your office and we'll go over it. And 100%, there was no view of an encroachment at that intersection.
By all means, Tara, I would love to have a discussion with you. Because obviously we're here to talk about CIP and to give everybody
Okay, all right.
general.
I'll leave it at that.
Not land development, Tara, but we're talking about CIP. But I do understand and respect your concerns because guess what? I also live in this community, and so do these gentlemen, and so that they want what's best for this community. Because ultimately, when these traffic issues come about, if Costco comes in or not, or Creekside, I'm the one who's going to get those phone calls, and everyone's going to say, hey, who was the mental midget who approved this project if it doesn't work? And I'm going to have to say it was me, and I don't want to be that me. So before that happens, I will make sure that my staff and I cross our T's and dot our I's. And if there are truly flaws or miscalculations, hold on to it.
Okay, go ahead.
If there are miscalculations, flaws, something that maybe we need to look a little bit closer to or from a different perspective, I am more than glad to get into the weeds, because these are the weeds, and nothing having to do with zoning, so we don't do zoning, but I would more than gladly be able to sit down with you and my staff to go over the weeds with you regarding either M5
Well, thank you.
or during
Yeah,
the,
and let's, I don't want to get esoteric or vague, but I just want to say, we want off-site improvements evaluated before the project is approved. Not in your statement, let me just finish, not in your statement earlier that we're going to wait for the project to see if it's a problem, to see if Costco's a problem, to see if it backs up the schools.
Agreed.
To see if fire, we can't get out in a fire. Thank you so much, and I'm going to pass this on to whoever else would like to ask a question.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
excuse me. I'm sorry. I realize that we're here to have a discussion, but we need to have a discussion that is reasonable, that is presented in reason, and this lady is not doing that. So we need to move back to a more reasonable point of view and a presentation and a respectful one for everyone. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, Bill. And okay, but Tara, It's all of our meeting. It's not just your meeting.
just asked- I'm
I understand, but
just
what,
asked for all
this
of
is,
our
okay, and you've asked. And we will ask again. I hope you keep
We
asking.
will hold
Yes.
accountable the county for that.
Please do,
Okay.
please do, by all means, by all means. So getting back to my, oh, yes, Linda. Sure.
Please do.
Because she was asking about scheduling stuff. Some of us know where to look in the CIP book,
Yes.
but not everybody does. So maybe something to consider is if there's a way on your website to be able to put your current priorities, maybe for a year, 5 year, because obviously I know any of the things that are kind of active, they can be out there a long ways. But at least we could say, here's our 1 or 2 year target and our priorities, so at least we can see them. For anything else, go look at the book because it's probably longer term, just a thought.
And that's a great suggestion. As a matter of fact, Bob Williams brought up a great suggestion during our planning commission meeting about including our CIP link into the documentation, because not everybody knows about our CIP. So many people don't even know that we're about to widen White Rock here within the next, several years. So yeah, all of that is very important. And the interchange at Latrobe, people don't even know that that's going to happen. So yes, it probably be a good suggestion. Thank you, Linda. Appreciate that. So just finishing up here, let me, I think the last slide, one more. Okay, yeah, this is my last slide. So PIF fees are, like I said, there's a lot that goes into it, but to put it in the most simplistic manner, you have total infrastructure costs. So all the bridges, all the roads, all the widening, all the culverts that we are going to build in this county due to development impacts, and you divide that by the total number of units. So essentially, if let's say, and I made these very simplistic estimates for math purposes, if I have $10 million worth of roads, bridges, and signals that I have to build, and I've got 1,000 parcels, 1,000 units, well then you distribute that $10 million through those 1,000 units, and each unit is going to have to pay $10,000 per parcel. Very simplistic. And here's where the problem came many years ago, several decades ago, when a lot of my elected officials and or planners back in the 2000s, in the aughts, said, well, you know what, you need to be conservative. You just need to plan for greater growth, a much higher growth rate. And then that way, you're planning for a more conservative perspective, and that's going to give you what you need. But here's the problem, and that's where that third calculation or the third row there is if I have a certain number of infrastructure costs, but I divide that by a greater denominator, meaning the lower number of units, a higher growth rate, I've now actually decreased the number of dollars that I'm collecting per parcel in order to still build the same number of infrastructure that I need. Well, some people say, well, if you build more units, then you're going to automatically build more infrastructure. Well, then if I increase both the denominator, the bottom number, and the top number, well, then it comes out to be the same. So in the end, really, we are here to, and I've said this before at APAC, and I've said this at the council, and I've said this at Planning Commission, we are here as your stewards to call balls and strikes, to basically let you, we are the umpires of this ball game, and we have developers, and we have projects, and we have residents, and we are just here to say, what is it that developers and projects and warehouses and retails are impacting our roads, our traffic, and what those impacts are going to be and what the impact is going to cost. And then it's up to yourselves and your elected officials to determine whether it is something that it can be mitigated and or is a benefit to the community. That's not for us to decide. We have no bias in any of the projects that come forward. We are here as good stewards of the county to make sure that we don't do anything that is going to get the county in trouble, as well as making sure that we are working for you to give you the level of services that is required to you per the general plan and per the state of California and federal guidelines. So I think that concludes my.
Yep.
Yes, it does. So I'm sure that there are other projects, as long as they're not developer related, that you might have for me and my staff. Are there any? And I'm sure Costco typically comes up. Are there any other questions? And if it's another Costco question, I'm okay with that as well. Are there any other questions that you would like to know, either about maintenance or CIP or traffic impacts? Yes.
Juanita Brand. We live in El Dorado Hills and we take Finder's Way to get on to Saratoga.
yes.
So thank you for the signs.
Sure.
Want to know what happens if your planning is off? So Saratoga Estates was what, 300 or 400 houses? Wasn't a giant development, so they paid their traffic impact fees. But the traffic when they opened Saratoga Way into Folsom, I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of cars going just to get to Empire Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
And did you take that into account?
We actually do, and this is the part that the part of my job I really don't is having to explain this portion of it, because as much as I, as an El Dorado County resident, sympathize with you, the metrics, the grade, the level of service, and that I think needs to be a whole nother presentation that I give at APAC, where the state of California has said what is an acceptable level of service, and it's a grade level A through F. What is A, B, C, D, and F? At Finders in Saratoga, it's still an acceptable level of service. And I know for you folks who have to deal with it on a daily basis, unfortunately, it is still at an acceptable level of service. As a matter of fact, White Rock is still at an acceptable level of operating an acceptable level of service. Now, I do anticipate that it will cross that threshold here within the next 3 to 4 to 5 years, but it's functioning at an acceptable level of service. Now, if something else was to trigger even more traffic at Saratoga, then I am compelled, I have to do something. And that's when then I, working with my staff, say we need to either prioritize funding away from other projects and say, okay, we need to widen that portion. And because right now it's an acceptable level of service, I couldn't justify taking away funding from my other priority projects to put there for that widening. Now, I can give you some potential good news in that there is some projects that are looking to finish up or develop the corners right there. And if they do, that is the first thing that we are going to tell them that they have to need to fix, is that location, so that it is properly and adequately accommodating traffic through there, so that we can allow for people to make left turns or come in or out of Finders in Saratoga. So as of right now, and that's why people have asked me, oh, put stop signs. It doesn't meet the state standards for stops. Put a signal. Doesn't meet that yet either. But now, if something happened, and it did, you guys would be the first ones to know.
Thank you for that. One more question. It doesn't meet the state standards, and yet in Folsom, like a mile away, they put in new stop
yes,
signs.
very good
and
question.
They've put in several stop signs
Yes.
because of all the traffic.
Yes.
And, you know, there's like 3 intersections in El Dorado Hills
Yes.
coming and with no stop signs. So how come?
Thank you very much. Actually, I'm glad you asked that, because I think that's there's a missing component there that people aren't aware, and that is that they analyzed that location, and there is a line of sight issue. It's called breaking sight distance. And at that location, when you're turning the corner at the speeds that you're turning the corner, you cannot see whether somebody's coming out of that side street in time to stop. And I spoke to the traffic engineers at Folsom, and they said, and that because they had 3 broadsides, meaning somebody was coming out and somebody T-boned a vehicle right at that location, it crosses that threshold of needing and justifying the warrants for that location. Now, I have had some accidents at Saratoga and Finders, but they weren't due to they weren't broadsides. They weren't somebody trying to come out. And so what we're hoping and what we are anticipating is that these signs are going to help people slow down. They're going to help people calm down the traffic through there. And that once we're done with the 2 projects at White Rock and Latrobe and US 50, that is probably going to be my next location where I focus our funding from TIF is to mitigate that location, hopefully within the next 5 to 8 years. Yeah, you're welcome. Yes.
Hi, this is Karen again. I have a question on that, and this may not be a very good humored question, but so in that sense, are you saying that if someone does T-bone somebody at that intersection, then you qualify for?
No, I need 3. I'm sorry.
So
it's a running joke in my office. I can't help it.
Got it. Check. 3 T-bones and you're good to go.
And
Saves
they're
you a lot
good
of
to
time
go.
Putting in applications. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it comes down to statistics, right? The
Actually,
volume and the intensity,
yes,
yeah.
it does come out to statistical probabilities. So there also is and I haven't gone into all of it, but there's also greater volumes at that location. And because of the geometry of the intersection, it's got a 4-lane with a school just adjacent, and the traffic volumes are much greater at that location. So that's why the statistical probability came to fruition, and they had more accidents because their volumes are greater. And so then we do that same analysis in our office. We do the statistical probabilities of accidents at a given location based off of geometry, volumes, line of sight, striping, signing, all of that go into the analysis. Now, if let's say we designed a signal exactly the way it was, or an intersection exactly the way it needed to be built, and there have been rare occurrences, and yet it still has a high level of accidents. That's why the state of California and the federal government has said that, hey, if you're having accidents, although you designed it right, and you're still having accidents, then there's something else going on. And yes, you do need to take another step and look into mitigating that location. But at that location in Folsom, it wasn't just accidents. It was also the geometry, the volume, the school. It was a whole different other aspects that led into that design. Yes, Linda.
Sure, nobody else was going.
Sure.
Okay. So a little while back, you'd said that if we have not planned for it, then a developer would need to pay TIF and or mitigate it, right?
Mitigate it, yes.
They would have to mitigate it.
Yes.
Okay. So if it's in our plan, that means we've noted a deficiency, which means we're on the hook for it. Can it be negotiated with the
Well, okay,
developer still to
so-
do the
so
roadway?
if it is in our general plan and it's something that we anticipated, so let's say there being, I don't know, a signal at, let's say, Country Club. We are anticipating for that. So
Or maybe Appian.
Or maybe Appian. Yes, exactly. And so then essentially they pay into the TIF, which then pays for that signal.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a very good question, Linda. We try to make these these topics seem very simple just for the purposes of conveying information here. It's extremely nuanced. When we do required traffic studies from developers, we have them look at different analysis scenarios. First is the existing scenario, kind of when the project is built on day one, what is the traffic going to look like? And so we will look at an existing plus project scenario. Yeah. If a project comes in and they look at the existing scenario without their project, they'll get kind of a baseline of what the levels of service are, what traffic volumes are, just by going out and taking traffic counts and doing the analysis. I mentioned the ITE trip generation manuals earlier. We use that to estimate what a project's traffic generation levels are going to be. We add that to the existing baseline numbers to come up with our existing plus project. If a project creates a level of service deficiency, if it goes from an acceptable level of service D to LOS F as a result of simply adding their project trips in, and we don't have a CIP project for that, then absolutely that becomes a condition of approval, and they have to construct that in order to get their project.
Okay.
There are other analysis scenarios, what we call cumulative scenario, where we're looking out 20 years into the future. There's a whole lot more that goes into that. We can't go out and collect traffic counts 20 years from now and analyze it today. So what we do is we use our models, we use the approved growth that the board has looked at, and we try and project where that growth is going to happen, and then add in the project trips. And as you can understand, there are a lot of assumptions that go into that analysis. If that growth that we're projecting doesn't come to fruition, then maybe the cumulative impacts are different than what they are, what we've assumed today. And so that's where we get into them paying their fair share by paying their TIF fees. If it's a large enough project that changes the general plan, zoning, land use designations, then we'll update our TIF program. We'll update our models and rerun that analysis to identify whether now future projects are needed, so that every future growth permit that comes in contributes to those cumulative improvements.
Right.
So we talk about making sure projects are constructing offsite improvements. If they are creating those deficiencies, those impacts on day one, then absolutely we're going to hold their feet to the fire and make sure they're building.
Okay.
I'd like, oh,
One thing there, and we get the question a lot. One thing we do is condition projects to mitigate their impacts. And we get questions a lot, why don't you just make them build 4 lanes if they're gonna do 2? We also have state law that requires that there has to be a reasonable nexus. And so regardless of what we'd love to do, we build projects every day. If we had $1 billion, it'd be fun all over the place. We don't have the ability to impose mitigations on something that's not a legitimate impact. And that's a very broad body of law and subjectivity. So we do the best we possibly can to call balls and strikes, because we're going to have one bench or the other coming out to argue at the mound.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to say,
That's it.
it clipped the corner, it hit the battery.
Yeah.
That's all we can do. And if we try, we get pressure from groups and people from time to time of, I want more over here, I want more over there. And it's completely reasonable. But if we start imposing those things, then we wind up in hot water.
Yeah.
Then our program gets sung. So just background information of why don't you just make a build it all? Legally, we can't do that. But
But you could
absolutely
ask, right? You can still ask,
We-
just not.
We can't.
Condition.
No, you can't.
Legally, we can't, because it's the twisting of an arm. It's like, well, you want to build this signal, don't you?
Right.
Well, then we might not vote for you, and now you're playing quid pro quo, and you can't.
Right.
It's illegal.
I'd like to ask you, I think the sign that you put on Finders is really a great sign.
Right.
Okay? And I'm wondering if you could put that same kind of sign on Latrobe
I gotta do
and
it all
White
over
Rock.
Man.
And the reason I'm asking, I've been looking at that intersection for over 10 years. It has not changed. And in fact, I see more and more young kids going across, and it's extremely dangerous. So I'm thinking that kind of a sign on Latrobe and also a sign as the traffic comes down on Latrobe would warn the people that, hey, kids are crossing on their bicycle. John Rassley is trying to walk across
Well,
the street, try not to run him
The
over.
John sign, great. I will look into it.
You know, I can't wait another 10 years.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. On May 12th, I asked the question about the Country Club Lane change that was in the consent calendar. And my question was on the fact that the funding split where it had previously said fully TIF. And then it came back for that and said now 45% TIF and 55% to be determined.
I'm sorry, what project?
It was one of the Country Club Lane.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So one of the sections
Okay.
that was just changed a couple weeks ago. So if it's not coming from TIF, my question had been, where's it coming from? Is it still considered a capital project, which then means that 7.1 million or 7.5 is going to be either grants or local discretionary because it can't be TIF, or is it going to come out of maintenance?
No, it doesn't come in maintenance.
Okay, so it'd be local discretionary or grants.
Yeah, I believe that the project managers for that were optimistic that they might be able to get some grant money for that project. And so that was the reason for calling that out as a separate funding source in the future.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we do that sometimes. On occasion, we anticipate there might be grant funding for it. Obviously, we're not going to propose, and actually we can't propose projects if we don't have full funding. So we just say, well, we have enough now for, let's say, design or environmental. So we'll start that or the preliminary, and we'll start that. And we just do TBD because at some point we say, well, we don't know where the funding is going to come from, and whether it's going to be TIF or grants, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
And we put a lot of effort into trying to leverage grant funding from the state, from the feds, in a lot of different areas. So how we program those things and schedules and when the funding program cycles come about, we have an entire El Dorado County Transportation Commission that spends all their time trying to hustle money for us in the city of Placerville. And so it's not a minor issue. You ask a complicated question, we can certainly sit down and answer it, but it's complex. And trying to put ourselves in a position to compete favorably for those funds is, we've got a deputy director and 3 staff that's what they do.
Right.
Yeah.
So I relate it because it was Country Club, so that's how I noticed it.
Okay.
But it goes to the Costco question.
Sure.
Because Country Club could potentially be a big benefit to the traffic
Sure.
from Costco.
Yeah.
If we have to wait for grants, that means we could be waiting a long time
Yes.
where instead of TIF. So that was my concern, the fact that 55% moved out from TIF. And so that could introduce delays, which goes to the impacts. If Costco gets approved and goes in, then we're still not getting that roadway for a long time.
If that project was to move forward, it would have to be able to move forward without that connection. So their traffic analysis would have to prove that Silva Valley, White Rock, Clarksville Crossing, all can handle the traffic volume without Country Club.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for letting me cover that.
Now
were
hands
helpful.
started raising.
Do you have any idea how much is needed, just with today's cost, how much is needed as far as funding the completion of Country Club Exchange? I think right now it's at Del Toro, right, in Cameron Park, to all the way to, I think, El Dorado Hills, that the Country Club Road's going in.
Program includes
Okay. 3.
the capital improvement program includes multiple sections of Country Club Drive. Ultimately, the desire is to have Country Club Drive be parallel capacity to Highway 50 on the north side of Highway 50, all the way from Shingle Springs down to to Eldorado Hills Boulevard or Serrano Parkway, whichever. We've got those broken up into different sections, and some of those sections have moved around in time and prioritization and things. We're actually in the environmental review phase for the country club at Silva Valley, because we have funding for that, and we're trying to make sure we've got everything planned out that way. So we're actively working on that now, even though we don't have funding for construction until the future.
What is the funding amount?
There's, I think, 3 or 4 different projects, and it's spread over time. I'd be more than happy to sit down and go over with you, and it's all included in our capital improvement program. In each one of these capital improvement programs, there's a funding table that shows the anticipated schedule, the cost, and the funding mechanisms there. As we mentioned, those change a lot, but every one of them is eager, and I'd be happy to sit down and show you how it's put in here, and so how when you look at it, you can understand what it's trying to say.
Yeah, it's pretty comprehensive. But if I type CIP into a browser, I get the Western Slope CIP because I look at it so much. So, so that PDF pops right up. But you could search the PDF and see it there. Let's see, we had 2, right? Right. Let's go ahead and.
Anita Brand again, since Linda brought it up and put the start up. If Costco was approved with their giant gas station, I assume the gas tax portion of funding would go up a lot.
Actually, no, it wouldn't go up that much. I mean, yes, but, well, no, maybe, I don't, that's a whole different wheelhouse that I probably shouldn't even speculate on, because it has to do with gas tax and revenues, of which that's not, I only work with the portion that they give to me, that actually, all gas tax goes to the state of California first. Caltrans takes its fair share and then gives the rest spittins to us municipalities, cities and counties. So, and that's the only part I see. So, if they did have a gas station, would they be charging gas tax? Yes. How much of that would we see?
Yes.
Hey, welcome again. For the generic question, and I have 3 bullet points. First question for you guys. Did Costco come up with any changes or concerns during your recent meetings with the DOT or others that you can elaborate on?
Very good question, and you are correct. I cannot elaborate on that right now.
All right, we'll go on to the.
But I can say that we are pushing back on them, and they are pushing back on us, and we are deliberating with them in terms of what their impacts are going to be. So that's why I can't say anything other than the fact that we are looking out for our residents to make sure that yes, they do what they have to do.
All right, thank you very much. That was not only for the people here, but also for the people on a Zoom meeting.
Sure.
Shouldn't the DOT widen White Rock first, since Costco letter of intent has been placed in 2018 with John Heidel, before the potential Costco could open? Knowing this stretch of road would be a bottleneck to whomever, understand that Costco does not want to wait for this. Isn't that a big safety concern for the department?
It is not. The reason being is that, as I stated earlier, and that's one thing I was going to do today, and unfortunately I couldn't bring a thumb drive. I was going to show the level of capacity at White Rock. Right now, it is operating at a level of service C. There is capacity, meaning that it still has room for it to take in more traffic volume. Now, would I prefer White Rock to be completed before Costco comes in? Yes, it would be optimal for that to be the case, and that's why we are pushing White Rock so hard in my department for that reason. Now, back in 2018, when Costco first came about, they were kicking the can, and they had another partner that they had, AKT, that they were not sure, and then they wanted to do this, that, and nothing was approved. And we can't make plans to buy, let's say, you saw the little picture I had there of the family, and then the home, and the car, and the education. Well, we're not going to plan for something that we don't know for sure is going to come. So If we say, oh, we better plan for, 10 kids, well, what if we can't have 10 kids? So that's why we only plan for what we know right now, and right now, actually Costco isn't even approved. So technically, we are not really planning for it, except for, I got a good feeling, you know what, I need to do this anyways, for just circulation.
Okay. Since Costco is not been approved yet, we have 3 exits and entrances to Costco's warehouse on the west side, which is Clarksville Crossing. 3 entrances and exits. Don't you think, the Department of Transportation, that Clarksville Crossing should be widened, not only for the traffic from 3 entrances and exits, but also for the 18-wheelers who are entering that road from the south side, going to the loading and unloading docks?
We are analyzing their entire circulation. And as of, I don't know if we looked, I know we're focusing a lot on Silva Valley. I haven't, I personally haven't looked into, and I don't know if my staff has, into Clarksville Crossing. But we need to analyze not only every road, but every intersection, every driveway, to make sure it meets our standards, state standards, and federal standards. So if it doesn't meet any of those standards, then Costco has to mitigate their driveways or the roadways to accommodate.
And I could add in a little bit, when we did the Silver Valley interchange, Carswell Crossing was supposed to go away. That was part of our general plan. We made some adjustments to that project. Adam, can you step to the microphone? I apologize. We originally, when the interchange was going to get built, Clarksville Crossing was going to go away. And we looked at it and said, this is excellent backdoor access, not the main entryway. Silva Valley will be the thoroughfare for everyone else. And Clarksville Crossing is a great access for trucks and those types of things. So we changed our plan. We changed the project to leave that in there kind of for this purpose. We didn't say it was for Costco particularly, but we knew that development was going to go in that site. We refer to it as the EDH 52 parcel. It's been zoned and planned for the full 20 years I've been here, different plans and whatnot. But you bring up an excellent question, and we did actually make adjustments to the interchange to keep that in there to kind of serve as a service access to whatever development might be there.
So Adam, on that same topic there of the interchange, did you guys study, and I'm sure you guys did, the current underpass of the freeway and the height for these 18-wheelers, not only based on information that we had 10, 15 years ago about 18-wheelers, but when I see them and when I drove underneath that underpass today, I feel like the freeway is coming down on me. And it says there's a sign on there that is 15 feet. Now, I Googled this here today. When planning a delivery route, this is Google talking. When planning a delivery route, you generally need a minimum of 16 feet of overhead vertical clearance for safe clearance. This is according to Mr. Google.
It's an excellent point, and we have evaluated that. Actually, when we built the interchange, I don't know if you ever heard it go off, but we had a siren system out there.
Yeah.
Because some of the bridges over the access roads had minimum head clearance.
Yeah.
And they put actually a warning sign out there. And if a vehicle was over height and went through that, the alarm went off. It sounded like an air raid siren to get everybody's attention. So there are other methods we can use to adjust for those things. If we're off by a couple inches, we can realign the profile of the roadway and other things. So you bring up an excellent question. I know we dealt with the interchange. I hadn't thought about it since then, but it's an excellent question.
Yeah.
We'll dig into it and I can get back to you.
Yeah, wait till the truck gets started.
That's always a bad plan.
So one last thing for me here. The remaining 70% on Costco north side is not going to be developed by them. According to my people at Costco that I talked to, they want to sell it off immediately. There's no intent at Costco at the level at all for holding on to that. And they don't care who's going to take over that 70% of that land. So aren't we kicking the can down the street? Like, then we're going to have another problem if there's going to be housing there or other things coming up, traffic, more traffic.
Not exactly sure what Costco's plans are. I think you're correct in stating that they don't have plans to proposed fuel station.
Yeah.
I believe there was an analysis of what they're calling the remainder of the north parcel, done with their draft EIR. But I don't have any, I should say, whatever does come in there in the future would be subject to its own discretionary review process, planning application.
One thing I can mention is that their traffic study recognizes that that's a large parcel that is going to develop at some point.
Yeah.
And so we assigned, growth and trips to that so that we could understand it may be dentist office, it may be any kind of different commercial, but we did look at it and say, yes, this is going to develop, and we made the projection that when it's fully developed, that's the traffic volumes that we took a look at in the analysis. So it may be different than the analysis we did, but we tried to be conservative with that. It is included in our overall study.
So one last question. Cindy was mentioning earlier that A14, she mentioned the wrong lot size, but A14 is the 51 homes that being built eventually. They're going to be sewer and drainage going to Silver Valley Parkway as of June 8 or something like that. Now, I have not seen any plans of that, how that is going to work, but in my humble opinion, it has to go over Costco land. Is that?
It absolutely does. It goes through the Costco site, but the two developers have entered into an agreement. The sewer for A14 has always been planned to go across Silver Valley Parkway over to the lift station down by the creek on Clarksville Crossing.
Right.
So that's been the sewer location.
Right.
Good shooting again.
Was initially developed. So they entered into an agreement to put the sewer line up, and it will go through the Costco site. If the Costco site doesn't get approved, it won't matter. There's still going to be the same line, the same size, same capacity there. They did design the size of the pipe large enough to be able to take Costco's flow. That goes through EID, and they've got policies about big ones, making sure that when you put in infrastructure, it is sufficient to serve the entire area. So you're right. It does go across. It will come out of Tong Road, go up the southbound side of Silver Valley, and then it makes a left-hand turn and goes across that parcel down to Clarksville Crossing. So it will go through there. It will go across the Costco site, but that's going to occur whether Costco gets approved or not.
So on that same note there, and I appreciate your clearing it out, I did not count, or we did not count, the amount of trucks that came from A14 with rocks, big rocks from the digging that they did. There's maybe 8 to 10 feet deep for their current sewer lines. So I cannot imagine how many trucks they're going to need from A14 all the way to your station on Clarksville Crossing for a period of 8 weeks. I hate to tell you this because this construction on A14 has been going on for weeks and weeks and weeks. But no, the recent construction of hauling the rocks away. If they're going to dig a trench over Costco EDH 52 North, over Costco EDH 52 South, up to your station, oh, there's no way in the world, a bottle case of Heineken here, that's gonna happen in 6 weeks.
So the 6 weeks is the closure that we're allowing them to do on Silver Valley Parkway heading southbound.
On the roadway, just the roadway portion.
Oh.
There's gonna be more.
Oh,
later on.
yeah.
So, so the idea was,
Yeah, thank you.
I think we had 4 or 5 meetings trying to figure out the logistics, how this was gonna work. And we came to the determination that keeping northbound Silver Valley Parkway serves the most people in the best capacity every day. The southbound side can use the Clarksville Crossing. And so we limited their ability to get out on that road to the school closing. But that's only the portion in Silver Valley. When they go across the other, it's gonna take a lot longer. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you made it sound like, oh, A14 is connecting to Clarksville.
Yeah.
I mean, how are you gonna do that in 6 weeks? I want to see that happening.
No,
So I can keep my hand in.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, we've kept you very late tonight, so Adam and Zach, you can come in late tomorrow.
Yeah.
You got to come in on time.
Yeah,
So,
I do.
well, no, we appreciate this discussion, and obviously, we're open to any discussions you think would be important for the community to hear. It's, these dialogues have been very valuable to us, and we recognize that things get heated sometimes, but you guys have been very consistent in how you explain things. And yeah, we enjoy having you here, and we appreciate the time you spend with us.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
So I'm going to jump through a couple of slides just because we just have it on here. Let me do it real quick. Share. Okay. Let me know when it's there. Okay. Just for our updates, and it'll be on the recording. Village of Marble Valley, Lime Rock Valley specific plans. The the final EIRs are still pending. Don't have an official timeline yet. Town Country Village, El Dorado, the hotel project had been turned back from the Board of Supervisors back to the Planning Commission. We don't have a timeline officially yet on that. So we'll anticipate something there. Costco, which we've talked about quite a bit. The draft ER came out. We provided our comments by March 23rd. The Generations of Green Valley project that Tara had mentioned earlier, that draft EIR was, I think, 2 years ago, and we provided comments that did nothing. There's no updates. The Gateway El Dorado specific plan had a scoping meeting back in February, or in technically January. Comment period ended in February. We provided some feedback on that. But that's, again, we're waiting for that. And that's the project that's north of the Tractor Supply. And they're talking about a specific plan with mixed use for residential and, commercial, but also the warehousing. So we talked a little bit about Serrano Village M5. So I had the comment here that the Planning Commission had approved it 4-5. However, I did get an email tonight that there has been one appeal filed. Tara had mentioned there's going to be 3 other ones, maybe 4 other ones. Not sure how that's going to be processed. Bob had some information on that for us. So we'll find out. And again, it's for 10 homes. So we'll find out how that appeal will go, and it'll be before the Board of Supervisors. We had at the beginning of May at the El Dorado Hills CSD Pavilion, we had to get another room to do it. The El Dorado Hills Community Design Standards, we hosted that. APAC hosted that for county long range planning. We had about a dozen people come in, provide comments, comment cards about design standards, and they're the objective. Commissioner Williams described it tonight. The objective design standards, so that basically it will streamline projects as long as they meet the standards. It will not delay the projects, and that's what a lot of the goal is for development and for our county. But we get an opportunity to help define what those standards are, and it's very limited. It's multifamily and commercial, but it's a great place to start. And as the commissioners had explained to us in the past, area plans to accomplish a lot of that as well. So, but we will be having another one. I anticipate we'll be hosting it again. It's more of an open house, and you walk through, look at exhibits, fill out comment cards, but they might want to do a different format where they make a presentation as well. They're taking the comments that were submitted, and they're going back to the consultants to try to incorporate it with what the draft is right now they have in place. The draft, I have it linked on here. It's linked on our website as well. You can go in and look at that, and they're still taking comments on that. Cameron Park's going through the same process right now. And their design review committee, which is appointed by the Board of Supervisors, most of their members are participating in that as well. Shingle Springs is done. El Dorado Diamond Springs is still working, but they're further along than we are. So if you have an opportunity, we will post when that next workshop happens. Come in. I walked in. Larry's on that group of volunteers. We toured a lot of places. But you just come in and make your comments. You can be in and out in 10 or 15 minutes. So, and again, we'll post that when that comes back up. Yeah, please do it. Yes.
There's some great buildings already that could use this one.
Yeah.
Anybody else on the team or whoever has photos of good practice?
Yes. Yeah, if you have, you can submit it. You can go to, we have the link to the website for the El Dorado Hills Draft Design Standards as well at the county, and they want all that input that you can provide. So we talked about things like at the gas station at Safeway on Francisco and Green Valley, the stone stack on it. Some of them don't go up to the top. Is that a design standard we want to do? Yeah, we want the whole thing to have whatever cladding elements like that, colors, roof pitches, materials. So if you have an opportunity to go and take a look at that, and again, we'll publicize it when it comes back out. So we remind people, if you can't be in our meetings, you can submit comments by the Monday before so that we can provide them to our guests or the speakers, and they can try to have the answers ready for us at the time of our meeting. Our next meeting, is Wednesday, June 10th, 6:30 PM. I'm trying to get the, Raphael mentioned tonight, the El Dorado County Transportation Commission, and see if one of their staff members would come and talk about how they pursue the grant funding and help design where roads end up going. So if not that, then we'll have something else to talk about. So with that, no questions. We're adjourned. Thank you for spending a late night in May. So, all right.